After a couple gloomy days out there, there was a bright sign, and it is via the High Park area. The cherry blossoms are about to hit peak bloom. They're not there just yet. Our Audra Brown is there, though. She's taking in all the sights and maybe some of the smells, too, Audra. If you could give us a little bit of smell-o-vision, what's it like over there?
It smells sweet and grassy and springy and ready to bloom. They're just about there. So if we take a look over here, you can see this is what we call stage 4 of the bloom. Full bloom is stage 6. To explain all of that to us is Sara Street, the executive director of the High Park Nature Center. Hi. Hi. Pretty exciting. You look beautiful. You match the blooms. Okay. Tell me what all the people are here to see and when they will get that peak bloom.
Yeah, so right now you're seeing stage 4, and stage 4, as you mentioned, is just when the flower stem starts to elongate from the leaflet at the bottom, and then they start to get into stage 5, which is what we call puffy white. So you're seeing some of that a little bit, on some of these trees. They just get to the point where they're ready to open, and when they get to that point, we're so close to bloom. And so we're predicting that peak bloom, which is when 70% of the blossoms are open, is going to be around Monday, given the weather forecast.
We can take a look over here if we wander over to this tree and see that some of them are close to that spot. Yeah. So tell me about all of these trees as far as the history and the beautiful story behind the trees here at High Park.
Yeah, so the blooming period begins when 20% of the blossoms are open. Right now we're sitting at under 10% of blossoms open in High Park. And what the history is that in 1959, there was a beautiful gift of trees from the Japanese culture to Toronto. And these trees are some of the legacy trees that have been here for a number of years. And in the history since then, there's been a number of plantings, 1984, 2001, 2006, and lots of trees have been added to the park.
And so because of that, we don't exactly know how many trees remain here in High Park, and there's a bit of a big count underway.
That's right. So every year people ask the question, how many trees are there in High Park? And we just don't know the answer. So this year we're making sure that our cherry blossom ambassadors that are out here over the period of peak bloom are out helping to count and see how many of the trees are still here in High Park and what the total number is.
Obviously, with peak being likely beginning of next week, we're thinking Monday if the weather holds. We don't get any very cold temperatures because that can slow things down.
Got it.
That would probably mean that Sunday is going to be a very busy time here at the park.
Yeah, I mean, people love to come out and look at the blossoms. It's a great opportunity to get out after a really long winter. Although this year we didn't have much snow for our winter, but it was still cold and a bit gloomy. So being able to see the sun and some blooms coming out on the trees is just a lovely experience for people. So we will start to see people coming out to the park for sure next week.
And people should remember, especially if they're coming on Saturday, Sunday to the park, that it is closed to cars.
Yeah, so the park will actually be closed to vehicles the entire time of the bloom this year. So it's important for people to remember that that's part of what they'll need to be planning for, and maybe choose active transportation if that's an option for them, or public transportation. Do what they can to limit their impact on the park and on their way here.
Absolutely, and it'll be a great time to come out this weekend and see the blooms. You can keep track on the Nature Center website. Every day they tell you exactly where the blooms are at. One thing that you should really remember when you're coming to see these blooms, you can see there's so many people here. A lot of people like to reach out and touch the trees. Please don't do that. It actually bruises the bark on the tree, which is really interesting. Melanie, Sarah was explaining it to me earlier. It's kind of like, if the trees could talk, when you touch them, they'd be saying, ow, ow, please don't do that. It actually could affect the blooms for the next year or destroy the bark on the tree, which of course affects those limbs. So we want to keep these blooms very healthy here at High Park.
There you go. Hands off, but enjoy the selfie. All right, Audra Brown at High Park, thank you so much for that.